Donald Trump and MAGA are going to have to get past New York Attorney General Leticia James first. She's been renting space in Donald Trump's head for the last 3 years, having successfully taken a $450 million judgment off of him after proving that Donald Trump runs a house of cards and it's nothing but a persistent fraudster. But that's not all. Leticia James has the track record for having already successfully pinned down the first Trump administration with win after win after win in court. And now she's back. And I'm back. I'm Michael Popok. You're on the MeidasTouch network. We're building this network. We're building our sister channel, the Illegal AF YouTube channel, together to be shoulder to shoulder, link arms, move forward. We're T+3 beyond the election. We're closer to the midterms than yesterday. And we've got people like Leticia James to follow into battle. I'm going to break it all down for you on this particular hot take. Now, Leticia James, we call her in New York Tish. Tish James is ready. She's basically telling in a new press conference alongside her Governor Hochul, she's basically telling Donald Trump, bring it. You want to do retribution against us or New York? You want to retaliate? You want to do inhumane things? We're ready for you. And we've got the funding, the legislative support, the governor's support, the money, the lawsuits, and the brain power to beat you. In fact, here's a clip of Leticia James just in the last 24 hours about what she's going to do and what she's prepared to do to meet Donald Trump on the battlefield on behalf of democracy moving forward. Let's roll it.
And lastly, I congratulate the President-elect Donald Trump. And if possible, we will work with his administration. But we will not compromise our values or our integrity or our principles. We did not expect this result, but we are prepared to respond to this result. And my office has been preparing for several months because we've been here before. We faced this challenge before, and we used the rule of law to fight back. And we are prepared to fight back once again. Because as the Attorney General of this great state, it is my job to protect and defend the rights of New Yorkers and the rule of law. And I will not shrink from that responsibility.
Now, this Freedom Initiative, this Freedom Fund, if you will, that the New York governor and the legislature, all controlled by Democrats. I mean, there are 17 states in this country that have the holy trifecta of a Democratic governor and both chambers of their legislature. Up and down the East Coast, up and down the West Coast, a couple of places in the middle. And those are the places that are going to lead the charge. It is the states in our federalist system that are going to push back, shove back, I suggest, against the worst instincts of Donald Trump and use the federal court systems and federal interpretation of constitutional law, of administrative procedural law to fire back against Donald Trump and make him instantly lame duck. I mean, if this goes well, with the more than 1,000 lawsuits that are estimated and anticipated to be filed in the first year of the Trump administration, doubling what was filed the last time around. And attorneys general are particularly successful against Donald Trump. As I outlined before about Gavin Newsom's plan in California to call a special session of his legislature, about 80% of attorney generals, Democratic attorney generals' cases against the first Trump administration were successful. Under the Constitution, under the precepts, going to the right judges and the right federal courts and federal circuit courts. Now, let me talk about Leticia James for a minute, for those that don't know much about her. She is the Attorney General of the state of New York. The state legislature has given the Attorney General position tremendous, robust superpowers to use against fraud, to go after and protect the citizens of the state of New York. But when she files on behalf of the state of New York, along and joined with the other attorney generals, like in California and Oregon and Washington and Illinois and other places up and down the East Coast, when they file together, they go for national bans, national blocks of Donald Trump's worst policies, whether it be immigration, whether it be reproductive rights, contraception, right? Whether it be voting rights and things that matter to day-to-day people. And things related, sure, to social services programs and the attempts to retaliate against blue states by this red MAGA president by cutting off funding. You run to court. You get a federal judge who's favorable. You say that it's illegal under the Constitution, under the acts of Congress, under the laws of Congress, under the Administrative Procedures Act, whatever you need to do. And then you go forward from there through a favorable circuit. Now, Leticia James is also supported by Governor Hochul. Governor Hochul has national aspirations. She is one of the people on the bench for the Democrats when we look at the next presidency. All right, we've got a deep bench of 50-year-old and 60-year-old people ready and raring to go. Gavin Newsom, California. Gretchen Whitmer, Michigan. J.B. Pritzker, Illinois. Kamala Harris, as she evolves into a candidate into the future. And Governor Hochul, I would suggest, is a good centrist, moderate Democrat if that's the way the party decides to go. But it rises and falls with some of these attorney generals who could also be on the bench of potential presidential candidates. Tish James could be that person as well. And she doesn't shy away from a fight with Donald Trump. She successfully brought a persistent fraud case demonstrating with not beyond a reasonable doubt, but by the evidence standard that was required in her civil court. This is a civil case against Donald Trump in front of Judge Engoron, and it's up on appeal, but she got $450 million judgment proving that Donald Trump is a fraudster. In fact, his companies are currently still under a monitor supervised by the judge and by a former federal judge who sits over everything Donald Trump does. That's why the Trump Organization hasn't done a darn thing of new business in the last 3 years. That's because of Leticia James. And she's taken him on before. Look, when she ran for office, she said there would be no fear or favor. She was going to go after power elite who broke the law in New York, and she singled out Donald Trump for sure. And that's what the American people, when they voted for the attorney general, which is often a stepping stone for the governorship. You know, once there's a term limit or the governor steps down, I see Leticia James running for that. If she ran for the mayor of New York, I think she'd win the mayoralty of New York. Now, Leticia James is also very successful after she became the attorney general in the last half of the Trump administration, Trump 1, at shutting him down, right? When he wanted to use the census takers that were required every 10 years under our Constitution to also help him with deportation and ask people if they were citizens or not, Leticia James and other attorney generals ran to court and they won. The U.S. Supreme Court said, no, it's not going to be a question about citizenship on the censor on there. When the Trump has tried in the past and will try in the future to undermine a woman's reproductive rights, to decide for contraception for herself, you know, to try to take it out of Obamacare as a right, they ran to court, got it blocked, got it banned in national blocks and national bans, arguing that it violated the Administrative Procedures Act about the right way to pass law in this country. It violated a congressional act or statute. It violated the Constitution. This is where the Fourth Amendment against illegal searches and seizures, the Fifth Amendment requiring due process, right? The First Amendment, freedom of expression, freedom of press, freedom of association. This is where these are our friends in our tool bag. They'll be used by attorney generals like Leticia James. She's going to join forces with Gavin Newsom and his attorney general in California, link it up with Washington State and Oregon, right? And all the other blue states top to bottom on the East Coast, and bring these cases for national bans to help you and me. I wanted to give this outline, and I'm doing this on almost hourly hot takes here on this channel and on Legal AF, the YouTube channel, to give people, I'm not saying hope. Yeah, you should have hope. You know, we will turn the tide back. The party on the politics side will figure out how it lost its footing and lost its way, primarily on not respecting people, saying that they felt like they were being disrespected in the economy and that things were worse off and that immigration made them unhappy. That should have been addressed more head on, more directly. But look, we didn't have a lot of time. We had a new candidate, Kamala Harris, 2.5 months to win an election. It's kind of hard. That will get fixed, right? The couple of million Democrats who decided to sit out this election, we will get them back. But from a law standpoint, we got to move forward with a blueprint for success that was tried and true in the first administration. Sure, the judicial complexion has changed. The landscape has changed. More Trump judges sitting in more places like Texas, Mississippi, Louisiana, at the 5th Circuit, at the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, and on the United States Supreme Court, where he got to put 3 Supreme Court justices, probably 4 or 5 before this whole thing is said and done. We got to make Donald Trump as lame duck as quickly as possible, pin him down, tie up all of his executive orders and actions that we find offensive and noxious to our values, and do it through the federal court system. That's what they're there for. All right. And I wanted to kind of shine a light on Leticia James. She's been renting space, as I said at the top, inside of Donald Trump's head. She knows how he operates. She deposed him, not once, but twice. She sat across the table from him under oath and asked him questions and got under his skin then. So she knows how to beat Donald Trump. And I pity the gang of lawyers, most of them felons or former felons, that Donald Trump's going to bring with him to guide him in the White House, or people who'd never been in government before who think they're going to beat Leticia James. I don't want to say she's untouchable and unbeatable, but I'd rather be on her side of this argument than the other side. And we're going to continue to follow the Leticia Jameses of the world, who are going to do God's work. And we're going to do the work to take democracy out of its temporary cage. We've got the keys to do that. It's through focus. Some of Leticia James's success in the prior, just ended on this, in her prior world, where she sued Donald Trump over 100 times and was successful more than 80% of the time. It was about environmental protection, proving that the Trump administration the first time around violated the Clean Air and Clean Water Act. She pinned him down on immigration policy and green card rules. She pinned him down on trying to roll back the Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. She rolled him back on immigration, on deportation. She rolled him back on the Muslim ban. She rolled him back on contraception being ripped out of the Affordable Care Act. Sometimes it was just a straight win in the courts all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. So she knows how to do that. Sometimes it was by shining a light and having the public outrage make Donald Trump retreat, right? Donald Trump is, I'm going to end it on this. Donald Trump is lame duck, if we do this right, almost upon his arrival into the White House. He has little interest in being the president of the United States. The only reason he ran again is to avoid jail. So he never really had a lot of interest in the job the last time. Now he's just going to surround himself with co-presidents that are just going to run everything for him, except for the couple of things he finds interesting, like wars, screwing with our allies, foreign policy, and oil and gas. Everything else is going to be some combination of RFK Jr., Elon Musk, J.D. Vance, who I think is going to take over as president in year 3, especially if there's a crushing midterm defeat for Donald Trump, who will get very bored very quickly after that. Get his pardon directly from President Vance and move on. And let MAGA be run by J.D. Vance in the future. That's what's going to happen. That's my prediction. In the meantime, we got the courts. We want to make a lot of that happen and force his hand. Get him out of there. Make him lame duck. Right? Every time he tries, we make him pay. In the courtroom, in the courthouses, with the judges and the circuits that are favorable to us, all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. And then we aim everything for the 2 votes that we can possibly get on some of these issues. Because it's going to be a fight for 5-4 on the United States Supreme Court. We got to aim for Amy Coney Barrett. We got to aim for Roberts. Gorsuch is a lost cause. He's part of the alt-right wing. He's actually more right-wing and more MAGA than I thought, and more MAGA than Alito and Thomas in some circumstances. Kavanaugh, he's like a free radical. You can't figure out where he's going to be at any given moment. He's got his own personal issues, having been successfully accused of being a sex abuser in his past. So he's sort of not all there. Amy Coney Barrett, try to get Roberts, right, who's already screwed democracy a number of times, and the president and the presidential immunity issues over the summer. Try to get him back now in the waning days of his legacy, and shoot for that. If you're writing a brief for the United States Supreme Court, that's what you got to shoot for. And I've written briefs for appellate courts aiming for a certain judge. You know who the judges are, right? Unlike in most appellate courts, you don't find out till a couple of days before. And you got to frame your argument, an oral argument, towards somebody you think is favorable to you. Here, you know the 9, right? And so you know how to write for the 9, and more particularly to count to 5. You're never going to get 9-0 on these issues. Your best hope is 5-4, and aim for the center right and try to get them over to your side to vote with the 3 on the moderate block. That's it. That's all you can do. So I applaud Leticia James. We're going to follow her closely here. Every act that she takes, every step that she makes, every suit that she files, reported here on the MeidasTouch Network. And of course, there's so much that's going to be talked about. Thousands. If you think the Trump administration had, in the first go-around, had 1,000 lawsuits against it by public interest groups, by the ACLU, by Planned Parenthood, by the attorney generals in the states around the country, wait till the next term. That's going to be 2,000. And you'll follow it here on MeidasTouch Network, free subscribe. And on Legal AF, our new YouTube channel, we formed before the election to be here after the election, regardless of the results. To join together in a community, hit that subscribe button and get our content without interruption. I'm curating the channel. You can find it at Legal AF MTN. So until my next reporting, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.